Johnny. Remember the plan?
Get the payload on the elevator, arm it, let gravity do its thing.
Welcome to Mojo Plays, and today we're taking a look at 10 facts about Cyberpunk 2077 that you may not have known about. Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to Mojo Plays and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Across the Pondsmith.
The important part in Cyberpunk is just that. It's not the technology, it's the feel. It's getting that dark, gritty, rain-wet street feeling, but at the same time getting that rock and roll, lost, and desperate and dangerous quality.
In case you weren't aware, Cyberpunk's creator, Mike Pondsmith, can be found within Cyberpunk 2077. All you need to do is listen to Moro Rock Radio to hear his own ramblings as his in-game character, Maximum Mike. However, Pondsmith's involvement goes beyond a simple, possibly missable cameo. Unlike the creator of The Witcher, Pondsmith was much more involved with the development of Cyberpunk 2077 than Andrzej Sapkowski. Not only was he a consultant for lore, story, writing, and so on, Pondsmith even assisted in the game's general design, most likely in the RPG mechanics and/or stats.
2077 is about the Cyberpunk you thought you knew, scaled up, bigger, badder, stranger.
CD Projekt Red found great value in Pondsmith's knowledge of game design thanks to his experience working on games such as The Matrix Online and Mech Commander 2 from when he worked at Microsoft. Had this relationship not stemmed from CD Projekt sending Pondsmith a copy of The Witcher 2, who knows where Cyberpunk or CD Projekt would be today.
And I can't wait to play it, and I'm hoping you guys will want to play it as much as I want to play it, because it's going to be a hell of a ride.
Preheating troubles.
Every new day here means 100 new arrivals, but only half these consoles survive a year, and that's if it's a good one.
One thing most may not know about Cyberpunk's development history is that it spent nearly a decade in development, and we don't mean actively making assets and building the game itself development. Talks between CD Projekt and Mike Pondsmith go back to 2012, but it wasn't exactly for legal procedures, licensing, and what have you that kept Cyberpunk in the oven for so long. At one point, Cyberpunk 2077 was being built on Red Engine 3, which, as one might expect, was not exactly built for the things that CD Projekt wanted to do with Cyberpunk, such as the mandatory first-person camera. And so, development had come to a crawl for a bit as CD Projekt Red took time to finish The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt while also building the improved Red Engine 4. Of course, we all saw the problems that occurred when the game launched in 2020. Between the backlash at launch and the constant struggles during development, Cyberpunk 2077 would be the last game to be ever made under Red Engine, as well as the only game ever made on Red Engine 4.
Got another blackout in Santo Domingo. Netrunners are at it again, poking holes in the power grid.
How to raise a city.
Good morning, Night City. Yesterday's body count lottery rounded out to a solid and sturdy 30.
It's one thing to describe a location like Night City in words and another to draw it on paper. It's an entirely different story when you're trying to make this fictional city seem like it could actually exist and do so with various areas modeled after different kinds of architecture.
One officer down, so I guess you're all screwed, cause the NCPD will not let that go.
Indeed, CD Projekt Red found this feat to be so daunting to reach that the studio brought in professional city planners to help create the layout for roads, buildings, sidewalks, traffic intersections, etc. Admittedly, it was more for consultation purposes, but still a tremendous accomplishment in making something fictional seem so real.
This has been your man, Stan. Join me for another day in our city of dreams.
Life paths.
Drop your weapons.
As most players will recall, Cyberpunk 2077 gives you 3 life paths to choose from: Nomad, Corpo, and Street Kid. All 3 are truly exceptional intros, but at one point, there were plans to include more. The tabletop RPG Cyberpunk didn't have fixed life paths, but it still offered various avenues to build your character's background, clothing style, and more.
You AC's Legends! Know where you'll find most of them? The graveyard!
Though we aren't sure how extensive this part of character creation would have gone with the game, CD Projekt saw the positive reception the original 3 life paths received during place testing and preview events, and so the team just stopped at those 3. Perhaps the next Cyberpunk video game will include new life paths to go with the old ones, or just replace the 3 entirely.
Matters not where you're from, matters not where you start. What matters here is the walk you walk. In Night City!
Lip syncing.
Everyone in this city lives in their own goddamn bubble. And either you fly high or sink into quicksand.
During its development, Cyberpunk 2077 was translated across 19 different languages. However, only 11 of them received their own dubs. But that's not the neat part about Cyberpunk's lip syncing. CD Projekt hired an AI company called Jolly Research Inc. to help with lip syncing character models across different languages.
Alright. Evelyn's a doll. Used to work at Clouds. Sig case on my table's got the address. Take it, and once you find Evelyn, give it to her.
You've seen some of Jolly's technology before and after Cyberpunk 2. On their website, Jolly has revealed that they have worked with previous partners besides CD Projekt, 2 of their partners being Xbox and Korean game developer ShiftUp. So you have seen their technology in action in Stellar Blade and some of Xbox's first-party games, too.
Taki? Eve, are you alright? This place is dangerous. Take my hand.
Recycling quests. If the number of side missions overwhelmed you, then you might be shocked to learn that not all of the side missions were planned to be in Cyberpunk 2077. In fact, many of them were originally planned to be a part of the main story itself. But in an effort to maintain the focus of the campaign, many segments of the main story were chopped off and delegated into simple one-off side missions. This sort of thing happens all the time in video game development, so it's not that surprising on the surface. The only mystery now is which ones were supposed to be in the main story, not the crotch guy, right?
Selected mode. Stone Cold Killer. Happy slaughtering.
A rose by any other name.
I think I might have caught something when I jacked into that Corpo's biomon. Don't know, a neurovirus or... Need to see Vic. Let him tell me what's got my head reeling and my stomach churning.
Of the 2 Vs you can play as, the general consensus among players is that Femme V is the better choice on account of her voice actor's performance. Totally not because you get to romance Judy, but regardless, Femme V does have exceptionally delivered dialogue thanks to voice actor Jeremy Lay.
No, come on. Job was toxic from the start. Even Kabuki under-the-counter magic can't get around an alarm like that. Should've known I'd have the PD on my ass.
And you may have heard Lay's voice in some other notable games prior to playing Cyberpunk. She was Gage the Necromancer in the Borderlands series, Roddy Tops in the Shantae games, and she voiced Makoto in Persona 5, as well as the various Persona 5 spin-offs. Needless to say, Lay has quite the portfolio of video game voice acting.
Word's out the NCPD's gonna put Watson on lockdown. If I'm gonna sleep in my own bed tonight, we better put in 5th.
Leave it to me, chica. I'm driving.
Money for nothing.
Test of a person's true value. Death. Facing, staring it down.
Despite the years of crying out against pre-orders and fighting hype in case games turn out horribly, Cyberpunk 2077 cast some sort of spell on gamers that made the cash flow in before the game was even finished. In the months leading up to launch, Cyberpunk managed to soar to the very top of the sales charts across various digital storefronts. CD Projekt themselves came out and revealed that pre-orders alone allowed them to recoup production and marketing costs. Basically, every sale afterwards was pure profit. In less than a month after launch, Cyberpunk 2077 brought in a revenue of more than $600 million. Although, sales took a sharper decline than anticipated once the game launched, and it got worse once platform holders got involved.
Will go down for all times in a blaze of glory.
A delisted anomaly.
At CD Projekt Red, we dedicate ourselves to telling immersive stories. Yet with every new project, we set out to make our games bigger, more complex, deeply engaging.
Many will remember the disastrous launch Cyberpunk 2077 faced before quickly remarking how amazing the game is today. However, one facet of the launch some seem to forget is how Sony got involved in the entire mess. The outrage was so massive that Sony stepped in, delisted Cyberpunk from PlayStation Store, and began fulfilling refund requests without hesitation. Meanwhile, Microsoft and Valve posted explicit warnings on Xbox and Steam respectively, informing users that Cyberpunk was in a buggy and unstable condition. Cyberpunk 2077 did not return to PlayStation Store until June 2021, 6 whole months after launch.
Immerse yourself in Cyberpunk 2077.
And lastly, the real samurai.
It's interesting to try to catch a language that's his and try to catch a language that's a part of this game.
Unless you really dug into the litany of original songs made just for Cyberpunk, you might be unaware that the band Samurai does indeed exist. They just aren't known under the same name as their in-game sounds. During development, CD Projekt recruited the Swedish punk rock band known as Refused.
We came out of the punk rock scene of northern Sweden.
He's like the future version of us.
Formed in 1991, Refused has broken up and reunited twice in their decades-long career, having been fairly active now since 2014 at the time of this video. Not only that, but the band has served as inspiration for a variety of bigger bands you might be more familiar with, such as Linkin Park, Blink-182, and AFI. In other words, you've been jamming out to the sounds of what many consider to be the most influential punk rock band of all time.
Trying to get this right, trying to get it to sound like Samurai would sound, so it's quite interesting. It's a very different way of making music, actually.
Is there another interesting tidbit about Cyberpunk most folks don't know about that you might know? Let us know down in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to Mojo Plays for more great videos every day.
Wrap it up! We got a Delta!
The Demolitron. We're good to blow.